continuous improvement. Okay. So he helps speakers through a mindset of continuous improvement. He currently coaches speakers and conducts improvisation workshops. And he is following the educational speech. He's intended to help support growth in POPs and provide suggestions on how to develop presentations beyond 15 minutes. We sometimes have these problems of making bigger speeches. So Javier's got the answers. Javier, take it away.
Right. Thank you, Debbie. And welcome to everybody, especially all of our guests and new members. Our goal with educational speeches is to help our individual members to grow in terms of things that are particular to speaking in general and involvement in Toastmasters. And so what I wanted to talk about today is talking about how to develop those longer speeches. Now, for some people, we have a range of individuals. Some are newer speakers that are growing currently and they're looking to expand themselves and growing to be able to develop those longer speeches. And then we have some speakers here that are very tenured and have done that for quite a long time, are professional speakers. So for those that are professional speakers, the intent for POPs is to be a lab, a gym, so to speak. It's an opportunity for you to practice new material that you're working on, or it might be something where you have a presentation coming up and you want to refine that presentation or practice that presentation before you're going to deliver it for a professional organization. The value of Toastmasters is that it's a safe platform where you can practice, make mistakes, try new stories, try new ideas. And that way, you know what kind of reaction you get from the audience. So you get those evaluations and that gives you some feedback. And as we all know, or maybe if you haven't experienced that, I think that we all do as we develop our speaking skills, is that oftentimes whenever we deliver a speech, immediately after the speech, and this happens also when you do things like stand-up comedy, as soon as you're done, you get this flourish of ideas of things where you think, oh, I could have said this, or I could have said that, or you said something that came out amazing and you thought, whoa, I didn't even practice that. And all of a sudden there's this great idea that came out of what I said. So the value is you get that feedback from individuals, you get a round robin where you get feedback from the general audience as a whole so that you can have an idea of how the whole audience responded to what you said. And then of course, those brilliant ideas that you get after the fact so that you can then refine that speech and deliver it in a professional setting. For those individuals that are growing currently, sometimes the challenge is to be able to take those 5 to 7 minute speeches that are the traditional length of time for a normal Toastmaster speech and expand that to a much longer speech, so a 15 to 20 minute speech or even more. When you're doing a full presentation, sometimes you're taking that to 40 minutes to an hour. If you're doing a workshop, obviously it can be even more than that. But what I'm going to focus on is taking that 5 to 7 minute speech to about approximately a 20-minute speech. And what I'm going to do is provide you with some suggestions for how to do that and give you some examples of how to do that. So when it comes to a 5 to 7 minute speech, a lot of times what I tell people that are just starting off in public speaking, just starting off in Toastmasters and are intimidated by the length of a 5 to 7 minute speech because it seems like, whoa, that's a long time for somebody that hasn't spoken before, is that to simplify and make it less intimidating, think about it in terms of blocks of time. If you do about, if you're doing 5 to 7 minute speech, if you think about doing a 30-second introduction and a 30-second conclusion, that's a minute right there, right? So that leaves you with about 5 to 6 minutes. Whenever we do table topics in Toastmasters, it's an opportunity for us to practice impromptu speaking. So we get asked a question, and then we have a minute to 2 minutes to respond to that question. So if you think about the body of a speech, which you have your introduction, then usually you have a few main points. Let's go with 3 as the standard, 3 main points that are going to support what you're saying, and then a conclusion. With those 3 points, what you can do is think about it in terms of table topics. Right? So if you do 3 table topics at about a minute and a half on the average, that gives you about 4 minutes and a half. And if you can do a table topic where you're asked a question about a topic and you can speak for a minute and a half, that already gives you the foundation for what it is that you're going to say. So in the development process of the speech, what you can do is select the topic that you're going to talk about. So that could be anything. If you're trying to grow and expand that presentation, it might be something that's related to the specific profession or the specific niche that you're working on. It could be any other topic that you could work on that you would think of in terms of a speech that you would do for Toastmasters. And I'll give some examples of some of those later. But then when you have your 3 subpoints, you think of 3 things that are going to support that. And then you yourself do a table topic yourself, a minute and a half of just freestyle talking. You can record yourself, you can write it down. And within that minute and a half, that gives you enough substance for that support of that point that you're trying to make. And then you can go back with pen and paper or however your approach is and refine it based on what you said. So in that simple way of thinking like that, of thinking in terms of blocks of time, you can reduce the amount of intimidation and give yourself a time structure for what you can do to support the speech that you're giving. Now, whenever we're going to take it to a 20-minute speech, what we can do is think of the same idea, same concept, right? We're just elaborating on that speech that we did. So that introduction might be a little longer. So let's say you have 2 minutes, 1 minute to 2 minutes for your introduction. That already takes about 4 minutes or so for introduction and conclusion, right? Which leaves us with, let's say, about 15 minutes or so. And so what you're doing is you're doing instead of those table topics where you broke it down into 1, 2, 3, now you're thinking about a 5-minute speech for each subpoint that you're talking about. So we're just expanding, we're including more information that's going to support our overall point of the speech. And when you're doing about 5 minutes, you can pick those 3 different topics. So if it was anything like the example of the speech is about maintaining good health. So 3 good points that come to mind when it comes to maintaining good health would be good nutrition, having exercise, and managing stress. So if you did 3 mini speeches about each one of those, maintaining good nutrition, proper exercise, and then managing stress, now you have the body for a 20-minute speech, right? So now we're thinking, and it's coming across more clear in terms of the time structure that we have. Now, some people, when they think, okay, well, how am I going to expand to 5 minutes on a particular topic? Well, I'll give you 3 things that you can do to fill in that time, and it'll also help you engage the audience a lot more. And that is to tell stories, to give examples, and to do demonstrations. When you give a story, do an example, or do a demonstration, it takes time to develop those, but it also creates engagement, and it supports the point that you're making. So for example, one story that I like to tell, that I like to use, especially for new Toastmasters, is about an individual, and some of you may have heard this. What I'm going to do is condense the story for the sake of time. But basically, there was an individual that had just recently retired, this guy Bob that retired, lived in the Northeast over by the coast, and he liked to go out fishing. He had his own boat, liked to go out fishing. On this one particular day, he was going to go, and his wife told him, yeah, you probably shouldn't go because there's a storm coming, and it's probably not a good idea for you to go out there. Well, he said, I've been doing this forever. I'm just going to go out there, fish a little bit before the storm hits, and I'll be back before you know it. So he goes out there, and guess what happens? He gets caught up in the storm, his boat gets destroyed, and he has to survive on a little rubber raft, emergency raft that he had. He's out there floating, and he's able to grab a few items. So he grabs this one metal rod, and with that, he starts fishing and catching these fish. And he's out there floating in sea, and he's able to catch a fish, and he's eating the fish. But after a while, he starts feeling weaker and weaker. So instinctively, he starts eating the whole fish. So not just the meaty part, but starts eating all the different guts and the eyes of the fish, because as it turns out, the eyes of the fish and other parts of the fish provide additional nutrients that actually help them survive. So then he finally gets found, they find him, he's able to be rescued, they take him back to civilization. And once he's back in civilization, whenever he goes to a restaurant, he orders the fish and he eats the whole thing. And everybody at the restaurant looks at this guy like, oh my God, he's crazy. What's wrong with this guy? So what's the lesson in the story? Well, first and foremost, that you should listen to your wife, but also whenever we try something that we're not familiar with, we might find out that it's actually good for us, and we might actually come to enjoy it. So when it comes to public speaking, you may have this fear that you don't know what it feels like, this intimidation, this anxiety. But once you actually do it, and start enjoying it, you really, really see the benefits of what it is, and it can be better for you. So whenever you tell a story, it engages the audience, it expresses that point that you're trying to make, and it helps fill up those 5 minutes. Another example would be, give me 1 second. I like to use the Wheel of Life as an example for how you can select topics for speeches. What the Wheel of Life is, it's a gap chart with different aspects of your life. And so what you can do is take a look and say, okay, where are some areas where I'm trying to work on different things in my life? And out of that, you might come up with an idea for something that you're working on that you can now turn into a speech. So as you use an example, you are able to also engage the audience, take them through a process. It takes up that amount of time to help you fill those 5 minutes. And it's a good way to be able to illustrate what it is that you're talking about. Now, the last one is a demonstration. So whenever you do a demonstration, you're actually taking people through the experience. And one demonstration that I used was whenever I was working with teams in a team building environment to teach people how to work well in teams and leadership, is I took white poker chips and then black poker chips. And I said, all right, anybody that wants a white poker chip, I will give it to them, and it's worth $25. And let's say with a group of 10 people, right? But when we get to the 6th person, I will start giving those people black chips, which are worth $50. And so then I ask the group, so who wants a chip? And then of course everybody's confused because you'd rather have the $50 chip than the $25 chip. But eventually somebody realizes, okay, well, if we don't get the $25 chips, we're not going to get the $50 chips either. So a leader steps up and says, I'll take a $25 chip. And then people start realizing, okay, I'll do the same. And then eventually everybody gets the chips. But the point is, whenever you're a leader, it takes sacrifice. Oftentimes you're not going to get as much out of it as some of the other people in the group. But that sacrifice is what allows for other people to grow and get the benefit. And those individuals that get the benefit will then understand that lesson so that they can repeat that lesson, right? So in terms of getting that 20-minute speech, remember, keep it simple. You have a main point, you have sub-points, break it up into blocks so that it's easy for you to structure your time, and then use stories, examples, and demonstrations for you to be able to fill in those 20 minutes and be engaging with your audience. All right, thank you. Now, it is a question and answer session, so I know we're a little bit over time if we go over time, but I'd like to give you guys the opportunity. If you have struggled with trying to get to that 20-minute speech, or you're looking for ideas for how to conduct a longer speech, I'll open the floor if anybody has any questions for me.
Javier?
Yes.
What do you think makes for a good keynote speech?
A good keynote speech? Well, a keynote speech is usually based on, there's a specific purpose that you are asked to do a keynote speech for, right? So if it's a workshop or a seminar that's related to education for children, right? Well, your keynote should be based on that topic. And oftentimes the best way is to get together with the people that are organizing the event to say, what is the main purpose of your event? What is the goal or the outcome, the message that you want the overall conference to express? And so as a keynote, you are the person that can provide the inspiration for people to understand that overall message. Now, if you yourself individually are developing a keynote for your own purposes because it's for your business, then that should be the central focus, right? So in the end, whatever people are going to think in terms of this is what Lamar can do for me or help me out, that should be the main focus. And then your subpoints would be the things that support that main focus, or the opportunities for the additional things that those people are going to learn if they engage with you or buy your product. Anything else? Anybody else?
Thank you, Javier. We are over time now, but how about if you have more questions, put it in the chat.
There we go.
I always suggest that everybody write Javier or our speakers a little note, put it in the chat. We call them a warm and fuzzy. And I will just say, Javier, that was wonderful. Very good information. And I appreciate this. And if we have time at the end of the meeting, we can open it up to questions again. Thank you, Javier. Well done. Okay. Margaret, are you ready?
I am.
All right, my friends, just so you know, Margaret is a Concord Toastmasters, and that's in her Concord, New Hampshire Toastmasters. And I have known Margaret for at least 27 years. And one day at Toastmasters, she told a story that something that I never ever would have expected to hear. And it was so brilliant that I have driven her crazy to really expand this speech. You know, we joined POPs because we are looking to become or hone our skills as professional speakers. Well, Margaret is already a professional speaker because I've hired her to come out to Utah to do this talk. And this one will be the test run. And her talk will be 30 minutes, but just for today, it's 20 minutes. So Annette, you're all set with the time, right? 15 minutes.
18 and 20.
Got it. All right. Are we ready, Margaret?
I am.
Okay, our speaker today is Margaret McClellan. She is a member of the Concord, New Hampshire Toastmasters, and she is known for her kindness and her love of family. Margaret will be one of the featured speakers at Debbie Adair's Christian Women's Retreat in Cedar City, Utah in January. Today, she will be practicing her keynote address of how a devastating critical car crash changed her life in so many ways. She realized after her accident that she needed to make some life-altering changes, and by the grace of God giving her courage and strength, she did and moved forward and changed her life. You see, it was God that answered her prayers to allow her to live and to be able to start her new journey and her new life. Her title is A Promise to God. Please help me welcome my friend and soon to be yours, new popster, Margaret McClellan. Welcome.
Good afternoon. And thank you for having me here. And thank you for Debbie for inviting me. I look forward to sharing this story with you. This is based on a true story. So what I would like to do is I would like to inspire people to know that no matter what happens in life, you can overcome and you can persevere. And God gives you gifts, but it's your gift to God, what you do with those gifts. And so I realized that, so I made that promise to God, that if He allowed me to be able to utilize those gifts, that I would definitely make sure I fulfilled those gifts. Life was good. I was working at Leclerc Hair Salon in Needham. I was 23 years old. I was independent. I had my own apartment, sharing it with my girlfriend, Julie. I had great clientele. I was all set, great clientele, great friends, a beautiful big family. I was on a great road to an exciting life's journey. So I thought, but guess what? God had another plan for me. I remember a conversation with my mom 3 weeks prior to the night of May 19th, 1990. We were driving in her car and I asked her a question. How does she do the work that she does? See, my mother was a home health aide and she takes care of people, the elderly, but then in the end, you know, their life expires. So I asked her, how does she get close to these people when in the end that they eventually pass away? And she told me, Margaret, I help them have that much better quality of life before they pass. And I said, Mom, I said, I never thought about it like that, but yeah, I guess so. That's a great way to look at it. Then I told her, as we were talking about, you know, when people pass away, then I told her, Mom, I know how I'm going to die. And she said, what are you talking about, Margaret? What are you talking about? And I told her, Mom, I said, I'm going to die in a car accident. She goes, why are you saying this to me? I said, because Ma, every time I get on a highway, I said, I get anxious and I get nervous. And I'm looking in the rearview mirror and I'm looking all around me, making sure that everything is safe. So I know that that's how I'm going to die. She said, please stop. I don't want to hear this. I said, but Mom, listen, if I don't die, I know that I'm going to be in the hospital for a very, very long time. I said, but there's a good chance that I am going to die. Can you imagine having that conversation with your child? What kind of feeling that must be, knowing that your child is telling you at the age of 23 that how they're going to die, when you think that they still have so much life ahead of them. May 19th, 1990, 23 years old. I decided to go out that night with my friend Julie to Boston. We had a great time, dancing, laughing, meeting new people. Life was good. Around 11:30, because we had to work the next day. So 11:30, we figured it was a good time to go home. I told her, take me to my boyfriend's house. He was staying at his grandparents'. They were in Nova Scotia. So we went to the house and I was knocking on the door. He wouldn't open the door. He was upset. I was out with my friend that night. So he decided, I'm not going to open the door. She's been out. She's had a couple of drinks. I don't feel like dealing with her right now. So he refused to open the door. My girlfriend Julie, she was waiting for me to get into the house. So soon as she saw that he wouldn't open the door, she said, come on, come to Dana's house. That was her boyfriend. We'll stay there. I said, no, being stubborn as I am, no, I want to go home. I'm going to sleep my own bed tonight. No worries. I'll be okay. I'm going to just drive home. So we were in Needham at the time. I lived in Natick at the time. So I had about probably like a 20-25 minute drive. On my way home from Needham, I entered the wrong way on 495, not realizing I was going up on the off ramp instead of going on the on ramp. There was a lot of construction. There was all those cones and lots of construction going on. And so I didn't realize I was driving the wrong way. By now, because I was driving around for a while, because I realized I'm hungry. I'm going to go see if I can find something to eat. But I couldn't find anything open. So at that time, it was now 1:30 in the morning when I realized something doesn't seem right here. That's when I ran into another driver coming in the opposite direction because I was driving in the wrong direction. It was a Toyota truck, and I was driving in a Subaru Justy. I had broken my ribs, which sliced through my liver, and I was bleeding internally. The ambulance was called by 2 truck drivers that saw the car accident. As they were waiting for the ambulance to come, they pulled me out of the car. The ambulance took me to Franklin Hospital, where I was able to give them the information, the contact information for my mother so that they could get in contact with her. But then all of a sudden my stomach is killing me. And I was bending over and I was just saying, I'm in such pain. After that, I don't remember much that happened, but they airlifted me to, in a helicopter to Worcester Medical Hospital, where they found out that my ribs were broken and that I was bleeding internally. A hospital, they contacted my mother. Around 3:00 a.m., they finally contacted her. Told her about my accident and that I was in critical condition. And they were not sure if I was going to make it. That's when the reality of our conversation set in. She fell to the floor, screaming, "My daughter's going to die. My daughter's going to die." She told me this was going to happen to her. My daughter's going to die. She's not going to make it. When I arrived, they brought me into the hospital. And from there, I don't remember what happened next. They had to put me in an induced coma to keep me still as possible. And every 20 minutes on the hour, they had to bring me down for an MRI to see how the internal bleeding was doing. They had me strapped to the bed, my feet strapped to the bed, my arms strapped to the bed, tubes in every hole possible in my body. They had to keep me still to prevent my liver from tearing through the main artery of my liver. I woke up a few days later to see my mother and my sister standing there. And I looked at my mother, remembering our conversation. And I asked my mother, "Mom, am I going to die?" She told me, "No, Margaret, you're going to be okay." But she really didn't know. She was so uncertain. But what else could she say? I closed my eyes and I remember saying, "God, please don't let me die. Don't let me die. I'm only 23 years old. I still have so much to do in my life. I promise you, God, I promise. If you let me live, I will do everything that I'm supposed to do." Because remember, God gives you gifts, and it's your gifts to God. What do you do with those gifts? Please just let me live. A woman came by when my mother was standing there looking through the window in my room, because I could only have 2 people at a time come in because I was in the ICU. A woman came by and she gave my mother a little medal of Mother Mary. She was an elderly woman. And she said, "Don't worry, she's going to be okay." And before my mom realized that, to say thank you, because she was just so focused on watching me and looking at me and please praying that I was going to pull through. She turned around to thank the woman, but the woman wasn't there. And nobody had seen her. There was no sight of this woman. And my mother asked, did anybody see a woman go by? She gave me this to tell me that my daughter was going to be okay. And I want to thank her. And nobody knew what my mother was talking about. There wasn't any sight of any woman. Through the grace of God, I survived. I was in the hospital for 14 days. They couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that I was only in the hospital for 14 days because that night of my car accident, there was 5 car accidents on the same highway. 3 of the 5 car accidents, the people didn't survive. They didn't know how I survived because my car accident, I had the most serious injuries of all of these people. After returning home and healing from my accident, I had to deal with the consequences. Because remember, I was out that night with my friend Julie. So I had some alcohol in my system. So after, I realized that the possibility that I was going to be going away, which was what happened next. My lawyer told me, Margaret, they want to send you away for a year. You do 9 months with good behavior, but I'm going to see if they can do it in 3 months. Well, he succeeded. And I said to myself, I asked God, give me the strength and courage to overcome and persevere this ordeal that I am about to overtake. I kept thinking, God, you saved my life. I know you'll get me through this prison. It was not easy. It took a lot of courage and it took a lot of strength dealing with other women that were there for much worse incidents than me getting into a car accident from driving under the influence. But I managed to get through with the grace of God. He got me through when everybody else around me was falling apart, especially my mother, knowing that her daughter is in prison. Moving to New Hampshire started my life over. I knew I had a lot of work to do. I started working at a salon called Peters in Concord, New Hampshire. I worked hard, building my clientele through walk-ins and getting to know the community and local business owners. I worked there for 5 years. Going out on my own after that, I opened my first shop. That lasted a few years before deciding to rent my own chair at the Main Element Hair Studio. I started working on myself by doing life coaching, various leadership programs, became an educator for sexy hair, and joined Toastmasters to improve my presentation skills for my teachings. Working on myself to become better as I remember my promise to God. I opened my own salon 4 years ago after working at the Main Element for 16 years. It's called Modern Look Hair Salon. I still have a lot of work to do on this journey of life. Keeping my promise to God by the grace of God. Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, honey, you did a great job. Thank you. As Toastmasters, as the Toastmaster, it's not my job to say you did a great job, although you did, because it's up to the evaluators, but we'll be talking. So everyone, if you want to write a little note to Margaret, you can do so in the chat, and I'll make sure it gets saved for her. But thank you. Loved it. All right, our next speaker, let me get his introduction. Oops. Rashid, are you ready? His speech is 20 minutes, so. And
I'm
thank you,
ready.
Rashid, for taking this job on. He was our general evaluator, but we were down a speaker, so he took this, and I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to hear you. So here is his introduction. What if you could live your life on your own terms? What if you could get paid for doing what you want or what you live to do? What if you could live anywhere you want? You would be living a freedom lifestyle. But what if you didn't have to wait for someday? What if it is possible sooner than you think? Rashid Huda has been living a freedom lifestyle since 2009. After firing his last boss in 2007, he set about to design the life of his dreams. It took him less than 2 years to achieve the freedom lifestyle. And these are 5 steps to designing your freedom lifestyle. So for the next 20 minutes, you'll walk away with a blueprint you can use to design your own freedom lifestyle. Please help me welcome my friend Rashid Huda. Rashid, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. If money wasn't an issue, how would you spend your time? Let me repeat that. If money was not an issue, how would you spend your time? And feel free to share it in the chat because I'd love to know how you would like to spend your time if money was not an issue. I'll let you in a little secret. Money never is an issue. It never is. Think of a time when you wanted something and you wanted it so bad, you could taste it, you could feel it, you can feel it in your bone. And you found a way to get it, didn't you? We all have been through that. When we want something enough, we find a way. Money is never an issue. We find a way around it. Now, I asked the same question to a lot of people. And what I'm reading here is traveling and writing. Somebody said need to think about it. Another traveling and writing. Lots of travel. And that is a common theme. Most people would say that they would like to travel. If money was not an issue, I would love to travel, spend more time with the family. But hardly anybody ever gets specific about what that means. If you want to travel, where do you want to go? What does travel mean to you? I traveled the whole United States in the last 9 years, well, between 2011 and 2020, before COVID hit. I was a nomad. I was living in a van, traveling all around the country. And in between traveling in my van, living in my van, I took 6 months off and walked from Chicago to LA. You need to know what it means when you say, I want to travel. Because if you don't, then it's just a wish, not something you want to do. And how much travel can you handle if you don't have to worry about work and money and you have all the free time in the world? How much time can you spend traveling? Most people think of travel as going on vacation, but that's not travel, that's tourism. So let me ask that question again, and this time, seriously think about it and be specific with your answer. If money was not an issue, how would you spend your time? It's about spending your time because that's what life is all about. Life is a collection of time. How would you spend your time? Once you have defined what that is, then you can move forward in making it come true. But until you know clearly, you don't have to have every single detail filled in. To me, traveling was being able to be a nomad, go anywhere I want, wherever I want, just take off when I feel like it. And that's what I did for 9 years. I've been in one place for the last 2 years, and it's a reinvention. We get to reinvent ourselves whenever we want. And I'm still traveling when I feel like traveling. So let's come to the point that I ask most people. If money is not an issue, and I can promise you it never is an issue, why aren't you doing it? What would you say to that question? The most common answer is, I have responsibilities. I have a job. I got bills to pay. I got a mortgage to pay. I have family to take care of. They're all valid reasons. I was gonna say excuses, but they're not really excuses. They're valid reasons. But when it comes to what really matters to you, yeah, they are excuses. Because if you have a job, the purpose of the job is to provide you what you want. And if that job is getting in your way of having what you want, why do you have that job? And I'm not anti having a job or working or earning a living. But for those of you who are holding a job, do you know what your real income is? When most people think about their income, they think in terms of my gross salary minus taxes equals take-home money. What most people don't take into consideration are the hidden expenses of holding on to that job. The wardrobe that you have to have, the clothes that you have to buy to work, the money that you spend on keeping up those clothes, dry cleaning and laundry, the makeup that you have to put on because you have to be presentable at work, the traveling that you do, the car that you would need because you have to go to work or take public transportation, those are all expenses. When you take all those things into consideration and add them up and subtract it out of your take-home pay, that gives you a good idea of what your real income is. Now, when you think about living your dream and having to replace the income because you have responsibility, you know a true figure of replacement that you have, as opposed to an imaginary figure that you think you have. Next, I would urge you to consider other life choices and how they're dependent or connected to your work that you wouldn't be doing if you didn't have that particular job. Socializing, attending networking meetings because of work, and wasting a lot of time sitting in meetings and traveling back and from work. All of that is costing you and keeping you from living your dream life. So the first thing was to define what your dream is. How would you spend your time if you had the freedom? Second, calculate your real income. The third step is to take inventory of yourself. However long you have lived on this earth, you have done things that have value. You have work experience and you have non-related experience that can be applied towards helping somebody who would be willing to pay for it. When I decided to fire my boss, because I had it enough for working for other people who would tell me when I can do what I want to do, and then without going into that frustrating moment of decision, let me just put it this way, I had it. At that point, I was faced with a situation, how am I going to support my family and take care of my responsibilities? So I sat down and make a list of things that I knew how to do, all my job experiences, and I had many of them because I am certifiably unemployable. Either my boss fired me or I fired my boss every 2-3 years at the most. So I have a long list of jobs that I had done, ranging anywhere from waiting tables and bussing tables to stepping on top of roofs and putting up a new roof or putting tar on the road. I have done just about everything you can think of. I made a list of all of those things. But then I also had another list of things that I had done that had nothing to do with gainful employment. I was a Cub Scout leader. I'm a Montessori teacher. I have spoken since I was 12 years old in public. My first speech was in front of 500 peers. So I made a list of all the things that I had done that was not work related, but added experience to my list of things I could do. So I challenge you to make those two lists. And then make a third list of what you would love to do. And on my to love to do things was traveling, being in nature, having free time to do what I want, help whom I want, go where I want, when I want. I know it's all travel, but it's specific aspects of travel. Photography was another thing. I love taking pictures. And what I love about my photography is I want to translate the feelings that I had that moved me to take the picture. So the person looking at the picture has the same experience that I had. When you have those three lists together, then the number 4 is to find a common thread between them. So when I looked at my list, I came to a strange conclusion. I had worked in restaurants for 30 years. And in those 30 years, I had seen many people come in our restaurants and they twisted balloons for the kids. Some dressed up as clowns, others didn't. I had restaurant experience, I had restaurant connections. As I said, I was a Montessori teacher, a Cub Scout leader. I love children, but I had no experience whatsoever about twisting balloons. But one of the things that I love to do is to experiment, find out what is possible. What can I do that I didn't think I could? So I asked myself the question, what would it take to learn how to twist balloons? I went to a party store, bought a kit for 20 bucks. Well, yeah, 10 bucks, 20 bucks, something like that. And it came with a little booklet and a few balloons and a pump. And I played with it for an hour or so, went out and bought some more balloons and played with it. And I found that I could do 4 or 5 different designs. And I went over to a restaurant manager friend of mine and asked him. He had Tuesday nights and Saturday nights, kids eat free if parents bought a dinner. So I asked him if I could come and play in his restaurant and give away balloons to the kids, which would attract customers for him. He didn't have to pay me. I said I'd work for tips because I was used to working for tips, having worked in restaurants for 30 years. Well, my first day at work as a balloon twister, I made $35 in 3 hours. That beat minimum wage. And I was sold that if I could do that in the first day with hardly any experience, with a little bit of practice and a little bit of experience, I can take my knowledge of how to relate to people as a waiter, my love for children, and take the curiosity and creativity that I have within myself, and I can make a living out of twisting balloons, which I did for 12 years, which also enabled me to travel around the country in a van. In every city that I went to, all I had to do was go talk to the restaurant managers. If I talked to 5 of them, one would say, sure, go ahead, play. And I would earn enough money to spend a week in that city, move on to the next one, rinse and repeat. Now, I'm not saying that's what you need to do, but find out what it is that is bespoke for you, that you can do based on your experiences, your loves of what you like to do, and your non-work related experiences. And find something in there that would give you that feeling of getting paid for having fun and doing what you love. Once you have done that, that was step number 4. And the step number 5 is to find out what would it cost to live the way that you want to live. Do you really need to stay in the house that you are in? Could you downgrade? Could you get a smaller house? Could you rent instead of owning it? I don't know. I'm not advocating any particular thing. I'm just giving you an opportunity to ponder on what are the possibilities based on what you want to accomplish with your dream, with your goals, with your freedom that you can have. Define your freedom. Figure out your real income. Make a list of your assets. Find a common thread between those 3 lists and then find out what would it cost to live the way that you want to live. When I lived in my van, I had everything that I needed. And I mean, everything I needed was there. I didn't have to pay for anything. The only thing I paid for was insurance for my van and the gas to travel. Of course, I had to eat, but those were all my expenses. I had a membership in a national gym with more than 2,500 units all over the country. So whichever major city I was in, there was one to be found. And I would go in there with my fob and I would be able to take care of my daily necessities, or I could stop at a truck stop, which I did often, use the restaurants, convenience stores, whatever. That's how I did mine. How would you like to define your freedom and enjoy it? There are people who have been living in a sailboat cheaper than they were living on land with their entire family, self-sustaining themselves while sailing for years across the globe. On my podcast, Embrace Your Inner Weirdo, my first guest for 2022 is a young lady who lived 12 years while traveling full-time. She came from a financial background. So initially, she wrote about traveling in the financial magazines and wrote about finances in the travel magazines, and that enabled her to travel full-time. She calls herself the professional hobo. What would you like to call yourself, Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, Rashid. Well done, my friend. Rashid and I have a couple of things in common. Both love the color purple, and we both lived in a van for quite a while. It was one of the best things I ever did. So thank you, my friend. Madam Timer, can we have a timing report for the 3 speakers?
Certainly can. Okay. Margaret was, Javier was 12 minutes and 34 seconds, and I did not time the Q&A, but I
Okay,
did love the speech. Margaret was 17 minutes and 45 seconds.
well,
Rashid was 20 minutes and 15 seconds.
awesome. Well, everybody was within time. We don't vote in this group, but we try to keep to our timing. Why? Because we're working to become professional speakers. So one thing I forgot to do is we have a guest here that I haven't said hi to. Sarush, is that how I pronounce it?
Right.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm Suresh.
welcome.
I'm Suresh.
We're so glad you're here, and
Thank you.
I know our presiding officer will ask you how you thought the meeting went at the end of the meeting, but I just wanted to say a quick hi. And the other housekeeping is our Margaret's evaluator. Unfortunately, her internet is going fluky, so she's not here, but now her evaluator will be Annette Fazio, and I will take over as timer to make sure all the pieces. All right. But before we begin the evaluations, I wanted to check with our counter grammarian, brand new member, Linda Kay. What'd you hear from us?
I did not hear any ahs. I did hear a few so's and a but other than that, everything was great.
Thank you, my friends. Yeah, we're pretty darn good. I love it. Thanks so much. All right. For our first evaluator, remember evaluations are from 4 to 6 minutes, And after the evaluator is done, then I, as your Toastmaster, who has many roles today, will ask for the round robin for you to, for all of the members, all of the participants, if you have something more to say for our speaker to make her a better speaker. Rashid, did you have something you need?
Yeah, I'm going to switch over to my phone because I need to be somewhere. So I'm
Okay.
going to switch over the phone, but I'll listen to my evaluation when it comes through
Okay.
on the phone. So
Great.
Deepak, you need to let me in when I come in.
All right. So goodbye for now, but we'll see you in a minute. All right. So am I all on track here? Please help me welcome my good friend Annette Fazio, and she's going to be evaluating the speech of another very good friend of mine, Margaret McClellan. Annette, take it away.
Okay. Oh, I had to make sure I was off mute. Margaret, I loved your speech mostly because it was true and it was coming from your heart. And the fact that it still is very clear in your mind that this is something that touches you. You never took it for granted that you were given a second chance, that God told you, you're not done yet. Now, one thing that I did think of, which is not really part of the evaluation, is something I learned a long time ago. Your brain believes everything that comes out of your mouth. So, we all have to keep in mind to speak with intention. To speak with intention and know where we are going. And go, because somebody else I knew kept saying she was going to die at 55. And she did. She dropped dead in the kitchen, 55. There was nothing wrong with her. So we have to be very careful about what comes out of our mouths. Something that really hit me was, I have the feeling that you have this story written out. And when the story is written out, or a lot more words than you could have, it's hard to speak fluently. I mean, you don't need to have everything written out on this story. This is your story. You know this story. There's nothing about this story you don't know or you have to be reminded of. So I would recommend bullet points and filling in everything in between, because that will keep your mind and your thoughts right on the subject, and also allow you to give it the emotional punch that would make this story even hit home more, even though it hit home quite nicely. You filled in, and part of your purpose, I'm assuming, is to almost a testimonial to God, because God did give you a second chance. He literally called you on what you've been saying for a while. I'm going to die at 23. He went, I don't think so. But I do believe you're going to pay really close attention to not do a repeat performance of this and honor what you've been given. So, I mean, the biggest area of improvement was to not look at your notes as much as you did. And something was over to the side, and I'm not sure what that was either, because you started off right there looking away from the camera. I mean, because it's such a powerful story, such a powerful recalling of events that really did change your life in a lot of different ways. Not just your survival, but your growth, educating yourself, educating other people on what you do, loving the people that you take care of and making them gorgeous. So, I mean, I told Debbie I would not be an evaluator for a reason, but that is my biggest, that's my biggest compliment and critique. It's a fabulous story. It's a fabulous story. Don't use as many notes as you have. It's your story. And remind yourself of what is the next part and speak from your heart. But it was really good. So congratulations, Margaret.
You're on
You're
mute.
muted.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Annette. You did a great job. We're going to have the round robin for this speech because I think it's other people should throw in ideas for Margaret. So I'm going to put on the timer just 3 minutes for the round robin to keep us on track. So would anybody else like to comment to Margaret? Deepak, go for it.
Margaret, first of all, congratulations for wonderful delivery. As Annette mentioned that, yes, one challenge was notes, but what I loved about your speech was I could feel that you have going into the dark places, your dark place. That was a bad time that you have gone through, but you were, while narrating it, you were very nicely coming out of it. So you are not staying there. So many times when I remember delivering a speech of my father's death and I literally started crying on the stage. So, but that's the greatness of a speaker when you go back into that time and you are able to come back and handle your emotions with smartness. That was a great thing you did. Yes, I know that you are watching on notes, but I could feel that the feelings were also coming from your eyes. So I could see that natural delivery that was coming from your eyes, the pauses, the emotions. I could easily feel those things. And, I also met with an accident similar like that once, but I could immediately relate to it very well. The only thing that I would like to recommend here is when you opened your speech, you started with creating a background. If I am delivering a speech to audience and delivering a message, I would not like to give a background at that point of time. I would immediately go with the opening with a bang. So maybe you say, one day I was sitting with my mom and said, I'm going to die. Suddenly people will think, what this lady is saying, but this will anchor your audience right there. So the whole objective of whether it's a true story or it's a fable, your idea is to anchor your audience in the first 30 seconds. And that is where I was waiting for to be anchored for at least 1 minute of in the beginning of the story. Second thing is a speech is a well-told, your speech is a well-told truth. It's truth, it has to be now well-told. So how do you craft it in a succinct manner that will also add value to it? So at some places, I felt as an audience that I was not able to get the exact message. There were so many messages coming out of the speech. So maybe you want to pick up a phrase that gets repeated in the speech and that hamper your message again and again. So that we call it a phrase that pays, or phrase that is basically revolves around around which the speech revolves around. So pick up a phrase that could be a small phrase and then create story around it, which will give your speech a lot of value, so that audience is understanding this is the one single message I'm getting from this speech. Thank you.
Well done, my friend. Woohoo. Anyone else like to throw in their 2 cents for the round robin? We've got another minute and a half. Okay, I will. Now remember, people, I know Margaret, and I've helped her do this. And just so you know, Margaret's whole story, which she's only doing a little snippet, is we're going to turn that into a book and maybe a movie. You never know, because there's so much other things that are going on. But I loved what you said, Deepak. Yeah, go right into that story, my friend. The other thing I want you to remember is when you're saying names of towns like Needham, Framingham, and stuff like that, if you live in Massachusetts, of which I used to, I know what you're talking about. But you have to think of yourself, and everybody should do this, think of yourself as a global speaker. So when you're saying Needham, Framingham, you have to at least say, I lived in Massachusetts or something like that, so that we can grab onto really where you are. And another thing, let's see. I also, I know the answer, but I didn't hear it in this speech about what happened to the person that you hit. So that I you didn't say that. I know other people on that highway had died, but he didn't die, right? So that needs to be put on, because it leaves your listeners with like, what happened, you know, more. But boy, another thing about POPs is this is where we come to practice. And Margaret will be doing this whole speech again on POPs in January. So she's going to take everything that you've said or text or chatted, and she's going to put this into this speech, so we get to watch this again and see how well she improved. Well done, Margaret. Now,
Thank you.
Debbie Arika has raised hand actually for this.
well, I think we're out of time right now, just to keep on roll, because you, Deepak, have to, and later you can put it in the chat if you have something, or if we have time after the meeting, I'm here and tell you, and we'll all stay on. But Deepak has to, not has to, but wants to do the evaluation portion of Rashid's presentation. He will have 4 to 6 minutes, and I will be your timer. So Deepak, take it away.
Define your freedom. I think this is what Rashid wanted us to reflect upon, that are we actually free, or are we moving around in circles with our jobs, with our profession? Are we doing what we actually wanted to do? The whole message was delivered in a very reflective manner. When I say reflective, means every minute, after every few minutes, Rashid has been telling us to reflect on something or else. And every time when he asked a question, my mind started thinking, oh, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Can I do this? So the idea was that whole through 20 minutes, he allowed us to be engaged with his questions, into his message and into his speech thoroughly. So a wonderful attempt, Rashid, with your this, where you have used various questions and you started the speech with a bang. You know, I always say there are different options of starting your speech with a bang, and you started with a question. If money was not an issue, how would you spend your time? And we were not aware that you are planning something else after that. It's a very common question that people ask, and everybody talks about what they want to do. And so as we started writing, you immediately came with another question, asking us what, and also went into what it means to you. When you ask this particular question, what it means to you, and every question you allowed us to deep dive into it, and especially this part of it, what it means to you, it triggered my thought process. Why do I want to travel? What is the specificity in this? What will I gain when I travel? Or I just go and take some pictures. First time ever in my life, I went so deep when thinking about traveling, more than enjoyment, and taking some memories back with me. So the whole speech was very well structured. You have 5 points where you went through the figure out the real income, your assets, find out the common thread, and then finally you shared with us what exactly we want to achieve in our life. So a very well structured speech. Again, at every point you were allowing us to anchor with you with some examples from your life. That is again a very good skill of a speaker, when he is supporting his point with a story, with an anecdote, with some metaphor, and you were doing it again and again. I remember you being that balloon twister in one of the district conference, and I met you first time, and I saw what this guy is doing, and it was very intriguing. And and I can understand how interesting it could be for anybody who's seeing you first time as a balloon twister. So lovely connection of your stories with all the supporting points all through your speech. Now, when I talk about some recommendations in speech, I feel that when you ask us to reflect on some points, and some people were putting down some answers in the chat, you quickly jump on to another point. So allow us to think, allow us to reflect, and then only give a pause and move to the next point. Little pause, little space for audience to reflect on, so that we are with you. So then sometimes I felt I left in between and moved with you another point. So that is one recommendation. Second is, you gave a lot of short incidents of your life, but somewhere you started about it and then you said, okay, I don't want to get into it in deep. I would love to hear how you did it. I would love to hear how you have achieved this freedom in life, rather than only I don't want to hear all the 5 points, but I want, even you convert this 1 point into one speech, I would love to have those 5 speeches out of it. But I would like to have a whole story behind that, whole experience behind that, everything that you have done as an audience. So that is one area that I would say that support with more in stories, rather than giving a lot of data and putting in a lot of content. So like to have 5 points. And as Javier was mentioning, and I also always say that 1 point, 10 minutes. And then you move to another point. So you have 5 points, you could have easily 2 speeches out of it or 3 speeches out of it, and which a lot of information was built into it. Some less information with some more stories, with some more stress, would make your speech more to another level. Thank you so much, Debbie. I think we can now take feedback from others.
Well done, my friend. All right, we only have a few minutes for a round robin. Anyone else have anything to add to the evaluation portion for Rashid?
Sure.
Javier?
Yeah. Rashid, I thoroughly enjoy hearing you speak, and because I do know you and I've seen the progression that you've made, I think one of the most valuable things that you represent is what it's like to truly live your message and embrace your message. Because one of the things that we can do as speakers to build confidence is to be able to talk about that subject with anybody under any conditions. So you do it as a speech as you did today, but I know that you talk to people on an individual basis, having a conversation with them, and use some of the same stories and things that you implemented within the speech. And that's what shines in terms of your confidence, your level of confidence and comfort. I think the strongest thing about your speech was how comfortable you made people as you spoke about your subject, or at least for me on a personal level. And I think that's how it was with other people. So I commend you on really knowing your subject and really embracing what it is that you're trying to express. Similar to what Deepak was saying, like my suggestion would be capture people in the beginning as far as wanting that, or considering if they want that freedom, because some people may think, well, I am happy having a job and providing for my kids, and I'm doing a job that I enjoy, and you may lose those individuals because they take it as a personal message telling them that maybe they're living their life in a wrong way, so to speak, if that makes any sense. So talking about that personal freedom, which is your message overall in the whole thing, but you have to listen to the whole thing in order to get that point. So to bring that to the front of, it doesn't matter where you're at or what you're going through, do you really are you really living that freedom that you want to live? So just my suggestion would be to make that a lot more clear at the beginning, so that everybody that's listening to you is engaged in what you're talking about. And then later on, you can use some of those examples, which can be reflective of people living different lifestyles. But all in all, super engaging. Love the way that you delivered it. Good stories, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Javier. And Annette, did I see you have a quick thing?
Yes, I did absolutely love Rashid's speech. It was, and the only suggestion would be, I mean, you did say if you didn't have to worry about money or time or anything like that, but after 20 years in the restaurant business, I did not have a clue what I would do with my life, what I wanted to do, you know, what I could do. And so if there's a way to frame that, because saying, you know, what would you do doesn't always, like I had to wait till somebody else thought, even now I'm doing what I want to do. And I'm still sometimes, you know, lost about exactly what do I want to do, but I do know what I want to do. I don't know. That might not make sense being a professional
But it
speaker. Ha. But
All right.
I thought it was wonderful, and I thought you gave wonderful suggestions, because I did all of those things just to get to a final point of, you know what, this is the common denominator, and I went from there. So thank you.
Thank you, Annette. My friends, we are out of time, almost, or I am, as Toastmaster, I need to turn our meeting over, but I really want to thank everybody for your participation. I think I don't know about you, but I had a great time and I learned a lot. I also want to remind everybody that we're doing something different. On Wednesday night, we're going to have my friend and many friends, Steve Gamlin, who is just hysterically funny, and he teaches people how to put humor in your presentation. That's going to be right on our Zoom. It's listed on our website, but it's at 6 o'clock Houston time. So tell where you are, and you got to come because you're going to love him. And we have people coming from all over the world to come to this, just so you know. And I want to remind you all to ask guests to come. It's all free. It's all free. So let's have fun on Wednesday night. Deepak, take it away, my friend.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for being an excellent Toastmaster. And can we give Debbie a big round of applause? Yes. Today we had an excellent meeting, excellent speakers. Before we say goodbye to you, I would like to share that recently in our executive meeting, and with a lot of feedback from a lot of members and guests who want to join us from various parts of the country, we are going to take a vote in the next meeting to change our timing to 4 p.m. East, sorry, 4 p.m. CST. So CST, so that maximum people can join from around the world and around USA. At least you don't have to be in the middle of the day. One part of the day is free, and one part of the day you can come for the meeting. So this is what we are going to propose and take a vote in the next meeting. So you all are requested to come and invite more people to this meeting, next meeting on 19th. And now I would like to quickly ask our guest, how did you like the meeting? Margaret, I know you are going to be a part of our club soon. Yes.
She is a part. She's a member.
Oh, she's already part of
She's
it.
just not on the website, right? That's my fault, not hers.
But anyways, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to the speeches. I want to thank you for being so welcoming and inviting and allowing me to share my speech, my story. And I look forward to our future meetings with this group. Thank you.
Yes, we would love to have you part of this group and learn from you in the process.
Thank you.
Suresh.
Yes, I really enjoyed the speech. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
I
you.
really enjoyed the speech, both of the speeches. I really enjoyed the meeting. Overall, it was good, and the evaluations were good. Time management was good, and I really enjoyed it, especially Margaret's speech. It reminded me that about the terrible experience and the miracle. It helps me to increase my faith in God. And Rashid's speech, it increases my understanding of money is not everything. There are other things in life which can bring happiness to our life.
Absolutely.
So everything was good. Hopefully, I will come back again next week.
Yes, come back and join us on Wednesday. As Debbie said, you are going to learn how to uncover humor in your speeches, because humor is integral part of any speech. If you don't,
Wednesday at what time? I didn't get it. Wednesday at what time? I can.
Debbie, is
Wednesday.
it, what are the timing for Wednesday?
It starts at 6 p.m. Houston time.
Oh, will I get the invitation? Will we get the invitation?
I'll send you over a copy of it, okay? So you'll have it, and then you
okay,
can send
thank
it all your friends. And remember, they don't have to be Toastmasters to come. They just want to hear some. This guy is really funny too, but he's gonna break it down how he got to these stories. So you're gonna love him, as we love Pops.
Linda.
New member, Linda. Hello.
How was your experience? I know you are a new member, but how was your experience in the meeting today?
It was good. It was more laid back than some of the meetings that I've been in, which is a good thing. And 20 minutes for a speech. I committed to Debbie that I would do mine next time, and it's
The
like
19th, we're gonna hear from Linda.
15 minutes. But you guys survived it. I can too.
Yes, it's a simple process, and that is the purpose of this club, so that we can help everyone to deliver not only 20 minutes, 45 minutes keynotes. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you all the guests, all the members for coming to this meeting. We will all see you on Wednesday and then again on 19th.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you so much, and
Thank you.
see you on Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're officially